Welcome to the deep dive. If you or, someone you care about is staring down an ADHD diagnosis, you know the next step can feel like navigating a minefield.
It really can. The moment a doctor confirms it, the air just fills with questions about medication.
Exactly. It's this enormous, often really emotionally charged decision, and the amount of information out there is just overwhelming.
And that's precisely why we've taken this deep dive for you. Our mission here is to give you a really objective, synthesized view of the current evidence.
So we're covering the whole landscape.
The entire landscape, the pharmacological arsenal, so stimulants and non-stimulants, the very real concerns people have about side effects, and crucially, the surprisingly robust data that supports complementary non-drug approaches.
Okay, let's unpack this because the core dilemma is pretty clear. When it works, medication can be a profound tool, for improving focus, reducing hyperactivity.
Taming impulsivity can be life-changing.
But deciding to use it means weighing that against so many other things. Personal concerns, the logistics of it all, long-term worries, and, of course, the financial cost, which can be significant.
Right.
We want you to walk away from this deep dive with the clearest roadmap possible. So let's start with the medications themselves. I was reading through the sources, and 3 names just kept dominating the stimulant conversation: Vyvanse, Concerta, and Ritalin. They get grouped together, but I'm curious, what's the real difference between them?
That's a fantastic question because it's all in how they work. They're all stimulants, yes, but their delivery systems are so different that they effectively become different tools for different needs.
Okay, so it's about the delivery.
It's all about the delivery. So
Yeah.
take Vyvanse or lisdexamfetamine. Its key mechanism is that it's what's called a prodrug. It's basically inactive when you swallow it.
Wait, a prodrug. Okay, break that down for me. For the person just, trying to manage their morning routine, what does that mean?
Think of it like a time release with a safety lock. It doesn't become active until it's metabolized by enzymes in your body. It has to be processed first,
I see.
which means the release is gradual and steady, and crucially, this inherently reduces the chance of misuse. You can't get an immediate euphoric hit from it by crushing it.
Ah, okay. That makes perfect sense as a built-in safety measure. Now, how does that compare to, say, Concerta?
Concerta is, it's really sophisticated.
Yeah.
It uses this technology called the ORS delivery system, an osmotic controlled release pump.
That sounds complicated.
It is, but the idea is simple. Imagine a tiny, tiny pump inside the tablet. It uses the water in your body to slowly and steadily push the medication out over many hours.
So it's designed for that smooth, all-day trajectory.
Exactly, for consistent long-term control throughout a school or workday.
Okay, so if Concerta is the all-day marathon runner, what does that make the classic, the veteran drug, Ritalin?
Ritalin is the quick shot. It's the same base methylphenidate as Concerta, but it's designed to act fast, really fast.
And the trade-off is?
The trade-off is that it only lasts about 3 to 4 hours. So you get a sharper peak, but often a sharper crash or rebound effect, and it means you're taking multiple doses through the day.
Which is a huge logistical headache.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to coordinate with a school.
For years, the assumption was always that stimulants were the only game in town for real cognitive gains. But the research you brought forward from King's College London, it suggests we might need to rethink that, especially for the long term.
This is where it gets really, really interesting, particularly for anyone who's a bit hesitant about stimulants.
Okay.
King's College researchers did this huge meta-analysis looking specifically at the chronics, the long-term effects of medication on things like attention, reaction time, and working memory.
And what did they find?
The groundbreaking finding was this. Chronic treatment with both methylphenidate, which is a stimulant, and atomoxetine, a non-stimulant, showed comparable effects in improving executive functions.
Wait, hold on. Comparable. So you're saying over the long haul, a non-stimulant can be just as effective as a stimulant for improving attention.
Exactly. And the strongest effect for both drugs was on improving attention. This is clinically significant. It completely shifts the paradigm.
That does shift things. If they're comparable long-term, why aren't more doctors starting there? Especially with all the concerns about side effects we're about to get into.
Well, it often comes down to speed. Stimulants work almost instantly. That can be incredibly validating for someone who's been struggling for years.
Right, that immediate feedback.
Yes. Atomoxetine, the non-stimulant, can take several weeks to build up to its full effect. But for someone planning for the long term, this research gives a very strong reason to consider that non-stimulant path right from the start.
Okay, that changes the discussion completely. Now, even with that news, people still hesitate for very good reasons. Let's pivot and talk about those reasons, starting with the most immediate one, side effects.
This is almost always the first barrier because you feel them right away. The common ones are, well, appetite loss is probably the #1 complaint. Then you have sleep problems, dizziness, dry mouth, headaches, and just general irritability. And almost everyone gets what's called the rebound effect, that dip in mood or energy when the drug wears off.
And what about that very emotional concern? The one about personality changes, the fear that you or your child might become zombie-like. That stops so many parents cold.
It's a completely understandable and valid worry. But these medications, they work by increasing dopamine to reduce symptoms. They shouldn't fundamentally change who a person is.
So if someone does seem flat or tearful,
It almost always signals that the dosage is just too high. It's dampening the brain a little too much. It's not the right medication, it's the wrong dose.
so the key is really careful communication with your doctor, tracking what's happening and when.
Absolutely. It's a process called titration, finding that therapeutic sweet spot. It takes patience and really open dialogue.
Another huge parental worry is growth. Does medication actually stunt a child's height?
The early studies definitely raised that concern, but the longer-term research is pretty reassuring. While some kids might see a temporary slowdown in growth, the data suggests medication has little to no impact on how tall they ultimately become as adults.
Okay, that's good to hear. And then there's the big one, addiction. These are controlled substances.
It's a complex topic, but the research is getting clearer. It seems the risk of substance abuse is linked more to the untreated ADHD itself, not the medication.
So the impulsivity of ADHD is the bigger risk factor.
Exactly. The risk for medication comes when it's misused, crushed, snorted, injected to get a euphoric high. That's why doctors are very cautious about prescribing stimulants to anyone with a history of substance abuse.
And there are other conditions where they are just a non-starter, right?
Oh, absolutely. Things like severe anxiety, psychosis, certain heart conditions, glaucoma, an overactive thyroid, or history of Huttick's or Tourette's. These are non-negotiables for patient safety.
Right. Beyond the medical risks, though, we can't ignore the practical burden. The sources were really clear that the time commitment and the cost are just massive hurdles.
A massive drain on time and energy. First, you have the stress of titration, which can take months of trial and error. Then you're managing a strict daily schedule, coordinating with schools. It's a logistical nightmare for a lot of families.
And the financial shock can be just paralyzing.
It is a huge barrier. Without good insurance, a prescription can easily run $200 a month, or even more.
Wow.
And just imagining that financial stress on top of everything else can make people feel defeated before they even start.
Are there resources, though?
There are lifelines, like patient assistance programs or PPs from the drug companies, and discount cards from places like GoodRx or organizations like CHADD. They can help a lot, but you have to put in the time to hunt them down.
Okay, so if the side effects or the logistics are just too much, where do we turn?
Let's move into the non-pharmacological world, because the evidence for alternatives is surprisingly strong. Yes, and we need to stress this point. Non-medication strategies are vital. They are not optional. Medication should never be the only solution.
It's a foundation.
It has to be the foundation. Things like behavior management, parent training, school support, that's where you have to start.
So let's get into the treatments with the strongest evidence. First up, the gold standard. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Right. CBT is a goal-oriented therapy that helps you reframe negative thinking patterns. It's highly effective for ADHD. It significantly reduces the core symptoms, inattention, hyperactivity, but also helps with the secondary issues like anxiety and depression.
And how does it work with medication?
They work synergistically. The data shows that combining CBT with medication gives you the greatest overall improvement. They boost each other.
And then there's the most accessible intervention of all, something anyone can start today: exercise.
Its effects are proven and profound. We're talking about aerobic exercise, specifically running, swimming, cycling. It causes a natural release of dopamine and serotonin.
The brain's own focus and motivation juice.
Exactly. One study was just striking. It showed that intense exercise improved attention in kids with ADHD by a staggering 30%.
30% is massive. But if someone is already struggling with motivation, how do you get them started on intense exercise?
That's the challenge. You start small. You pair it with something they enjoy, like listening to music or a great podcast while going for a brisk walk. It's about building the habit, not running a marathon on day one.
Right. Beyond CBT and cardio, what about some of the complementary treatments that are gaining traction?
We're seeing some really solid emerging research for mindfulness and meditation. Consistent practice seems to improve focus and impulse control. Neuroimaging even suggests it causes physical, neuroplastic changes in the attention regions of the brain.
So you're literally training your brain to pay attention.
You are. And then there's dietary changes. Now, a healthy diet, like the Mediterranean diet, is definitely associated with fewer symptoms. But it's not a cure. The research shows that really restrictive elimination diets are often no more effective than just a general healthy diet.
And what about supplements? I feel like everyone talks about omega-3s.
Omega-3s are a very promising adjunctive therapy. One big review found evidence that it improved hyperactivity, impulsivity, and attention. And really interestingly, it might even allow for lower necessary dosages of medication.
Okay, and finally, for those looking for a tech-based option, there's neurofeedback.
Right, EEG biofeedback. It's a non-invasive therapy that helps you learn to regulate your own brain activity. The results are promising, especially for adults.
But what's the catch?
The catch is the commitment. It requires many, many sessions, and it can be prohibitively expensive. It's probably the least accessible option we've talked about.
Before we wrap, we should probably touch on what to avoid, the things that don't have evidence or could even be harmful.
Absolutely. Things like herbal remedies, ginseng, ginkgo, they're generally safe, but they just lack the robust scientific trials to be recommended.
And the debunked list.
That would include things like sugar elimination diets and the Feingold diet, which have been largely discredited as primary treatments. And most importantly, stay far, far away from chelation therapy.
Why is that?
It's a therapy that supposedly removes heavy metals. It has absolutely no proven benefit for ADHD and carries very dangerous side effects. It's a risk you should not take.
So if we tie all this together, what's the big picture?
The big picture from all the sources is that medication for many people should be seen as a complementary aid. It's something you place on top of a solid foundation of therapy, coaching, and self-help. Relying only on the pill rarely leads to the best long-term outcomes.
It's a collaborative approach that creates lasting success.
It has to be.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, right now, just wanting to feel better? We have the King's College study showing that long-term non-stimulants can offer cognitive gains comparable to stimulants. And we know that non-drug options like CBT and exercise offer immediate proven benefits. So maybe the key to better focus isn't waiting 6 months for a prescription, or weathering weeks of side effects, or stressing about the cost. Maybe the real leverage is in committing today to the powerful non-pharmacological tools you can access right now. So the question to ask yourself is, what existing routine or habit could you adjust this week? A brisk walk after work, a 5-minute mindfulness practice in the morning, something to immediately start bolstering your own focus and impulse control. The power to change your trajectory might not be in the waiting room, it might just be in your running shoes.